Armando Hasurigan, biology and medicine videos. Please make sure to subscribe, join the following group for the latest videos. Please visit Facebook Armando Hasurigan. Please like, and you can also ask questions, answer questions, and post some interesting things, including your hours. You can also change the quality settings to the highest one for better graphics. In this video, we're going to talk about pain. Now, pain is pretty important for us in that it's a sort of defense mechanism telling our body something is wrong. But pain can persist, and this is when it might cause some problems. So how do we feel pain, such as a joint injury from a sport or a punch in the face? Well, there are special nerve cell endings that initiate the sensation of pain all around our body. These nerve cells are known as nociceptors. Right now, here I am drawing the central nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, and the brainstem, because these are important in pain registration as well, and feeling pain. To understand more about how we feel pain, we must first review the spinal cord as well and its general anatomy. Because the spinal cord is like a relay station where the information about pain, temperature, pressure from the periphery, meaning the skin, the joint, and the muscles, can travel up to the brain. So here is a structure of the spinal cord. The barriers of the spinal cord as well as the brain from the inside is the pia mater, arachnoid, and dura mater. All these are collectively known as the meninges. Now if you have a cross section of the spinal cord, like on the top here, there's usually like a butterfly shaped gray matter with the white matter around it. The white matter contains the axons of the nerve cells, while the gray matter contains the cell bodies of the nerve cells itself. Now the funny thing is the brain actually has the white matter in the center and then the gray matter around, so it's the opposite to the spinal cord. And then in the center here, this round thing, we have the central canal, which actually contains cerebrospinal fluid, which is important fluid for nourishing the central nervous system, that is the spinal cord and the brain. Now these red tracks I'm drawing right now are nerve fibers. These tracks are coming out from the front of the spinal cord, the front. When they are in the front, they are called motor fibers, meaning that these fibers carry information out of the spinal cord, not into the spinal cord. So information is leaving out, as indicated by this black arrow here. Then the fibers connect. Then we have fibers connecting at the dorsal aspect of the spinal cord, the back, and these are the sensory fibers. These fibers transmit information into the spinal cord, so towards the spinal cord, which then can go to the brain. The main thing to take out of this diagram is the sensory fibers and how it brings in information to the back of the spinal cord, the dorsal side of the spinal cord, and then this information can then travel up towards the brain from the spinal cord. Now that we know about these sensory fibers, a bit about it, let's see how we sense pain, how sensation of pain begins. Let's just say a big nail has penetrated the skin in the trunk area of this human here. What would happen from here? Well, underneath our skins, in the periphery, which also includes the joints and the muscles, we have these cells known as nociceptors. These are the pain-sensing nerve cells. When a noxious stimuli occurs, such as the big nail penetrating our body, there will be chemicals released by immune cells and all of these other factors which essentially stimulate these nociceptors. When the nociceptors are stimulated, they will then propagate this information about this pain to the spinal cord nearby. So let's just take a cross section of the spinal cord here. The nociceptors will bring this pain information into the spinal cord from the dorsal horn, which is the back of the spinal cord. Because remember, the sensory fibers are at the dorsal side of the spinal cord, as we learned just before. They bring information from the back to the back of the spinal cord. The nociceptors will then release chemicals here, pain neurotransmitters, such as substance P. Then a second neuron, called the second order neuron, will receive this information and then cross over at the inside the spinal cord, so to the opposite side of the spinal cord, and then bring this information towards the brain. Now, before continuing on with this second order neuron, we must understand that there are actually two types of nociceptors. The first is the alpha delta fibers. These are very small myelinated nerve cells that produce fast, well-localized, sharp pain. Then you have the C fibers, which are smaller and are unmyelinated and produce slow, poorly localized pain. The C fibers are the fibers that produce the burning type throbbing pain that some people have experienced. The nociceptors can also be referred to as the afferent nerve fibers because it is bringing information into the spinal cord to the second order neuron. Anyways, if that made sense, continuing on. So the second order neuron will bring this pain information through the spinal cord towards the brain. It will travel to the brain via the spinothalamic tract or pathway. The name thalamic implies the thalamus, which is an area of the brain. So this tract will go towards the thalamus in the brain, basically. But why is it called the spinothalamic tract? Well, because the spinal cord have areas that bring the nerves straight to the thalamus. These areas are collectively known as the spinothalamic tract here. So the second order neuron will bring this pain information through via the spinothalamic tract in the spinal cord to the thalamus of the brain. Looking at it at a big picture, the second order neuron is traveling up the spinal cord towards the thalamus of the brain via the spinothalamic tract. Here I am drawing a cross section of the brain. This red area is the thalamus. The thalamus is also known as the relay station as well. If you know your brain, there are areas in the cortex of the brain, the outer part of the brain, that are associated with sensation. So touch, feeling of touch. This area is called the somatosensory cortex. Now, along the somatosensory cortex are specific areas related to specific parts of the body. So, for example, here I am drawing a simple diagram of body parts that correlate with that area of the somatosensory cortex. So here are the somatosensory cortex areas where we feel the trunk, our body, the trunk, our head, hand, thumb, and face. The body parts, as you can see, look quite disproportionate. As you can see, the face sensation area covers a massive part of the somatosensory cortex compared to the hand, for example. So you can say that our face is more sensitive. We can feel more sensations in our face than in our hands. So if we make an actual human figure out of this, we would call it a homunculus. Thus, this whole diagram I'm drawing can therefore be called a homunculus of primary somatosensory cortex. Now, to make things even more difficult, this is the left side of the brain, and here is the right. We would, of course, also have a somatosensory cortex on the right side of the brain, just because it's symmetrical. So here we have, again, the trunk, the hands, blah, 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 blah. Now you might ask yourself, why are we talking about the homunculus, the primary somatosensory cortex, this diagram? Well, it's because the location of where the pain has occurred correlates to the area of the somatosensory cortex, one of these areas. So what happens is, this second order neuron, which is on the left side of the brain, will pass on the pain information to another neuron by releasing neurotransmitters. The second order neuron will pass it on to a third order neuron in the thalamus. And this is where the location and discrimination of pain then occurs. In this case, the third order neuron is locating the pain to be within the trunk area, which is true because if you remember, the nail penetrated the trunk area of the body. As shown by the picture here, the location and discrimination of pain is on the left side of the brain. The question I ask is, why is it not on the right side of the brain? Well, it's because if we look back to where the nociceptor and the second order neuron synapsed, the second order neuron, which was on the right side, crossed over to the left side and then ascended to the left side of the brain. So we can say that pain on the right side of the body is processed on the left side of the brain, and vice versa. If pain is coming from the left side of the body, it will be processed on the right side of the brain. Finally, everything that we just saw, from when the noxious stimuli stimulates the nociceptors to where the location and discrimination of pain occurred in the brain, this is all called the ascending pathway because it's going up. Now, there's also a descending pathway. There are other nerves that actually regulate and modulate the ascending pathway of pain here. These are the inhibitory descending pathway, which goes down, and this is directly linked to the gate theory of pain area, which is located in the spinal cord. But we won't talk about that in this video. This video was just an overview of how we feel pain. But it's important to know that there are regulatory neurons and stuff that regulate the pain pathway up to the brain. Hopefully in the next video we'll go more into depth of pain and look at the modulation, regulation, and other stuff which is interesting.